Hey Kim. Hey Harsha.
Hey, Merlin.
Hello Matthias.
Marsha, how you
Yeah.
doing? Good to
Hey,
see
Cindy.
everybody. Good
Good
to
to
see
see you.
everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy
Okay,
New Year.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm really excited about today. Beth White has been a presenter. I think it's been 2 or 3 years ago. MeBeBot is a great platform. She's working with Marilyn right now, and she actually has a couple advisors in the meeting today that are gonna share their experience. But she's actively looking for advisors, so I'm excited for her to meet all you guys. As everybody knows, um, we try and and I think this came as a suggestion from Shannon to Marilyn, we try and let the presenter get through their presentation before we actually interrupt them and start questions. But go ahead and put questions in chat. But we'll probably save those questions until Beth finishes her presentation. So the first thing we do, everyone, we are recording this. I will send out the recording and the deck that Beth uses to everybody along with the feedback link so you can everybody can look at it. It'll go to everyone that's in the program, not just the people that are in the room. Um, and then what we like to do is we want you guys to introduce yourself to Beth so she knows you at the very start of this. So I'm going to start with Harsha. Can you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and where are you in this world?
Oh, sure. Great to see everybody. My name is Harsha Bellur. I'm here in cold Texas, Austin, Texas. We're just starting to clear up today, which is great. I'm with a company called James Avery Jewelry. We are a iconic Texas brand, celebrating 71st year today, and I've been with the company for 14 years as the Chief Technology and Information Officer.
Great. Thanks for being here, Harsha. Anna, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. Hi, everyone. So I'm Anna. Couple years, like plus 25 years of HR experience, and now consulting with different segments in companies that are scaling up and looking for transformation and optimization. I'm in Michigan, so Harsha, you said it's cold Texas, but here it's really, really cold. So I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it, Anna. Matthias, welcome.
Okay. Hello, hello. Good afternoon to you. Matthias Filtrovich, I'm a VP of People Strategy at Denata. Denata is a part of the Emirates Group, aviation company, as you know it, and we focus on ground services, cargo, and logistics. My role currently is focusing on the United States, and I've been with the company about almost a year right now, and I'm in Orlando, Florida, a little cooler, 54, so it's kind of cold for us, but nothing close to what you guys are experiencing up north. So I feel a little bit guilty, but I'm glad to be part of the sessions.
Thanks for being here, Matthias. Rick Byer.
I'm Rick Byer. I operate in Kansas City. I have a human resource consulting firm, and I integrate science with practice to achieve better outcomes. I also serve on one traditional board and a startup company board in San Francisco.
And Rick, just share with everybody the roles you've had in the past.
I was with what is now Bank of America for about 25 years, and then I served the state of Kansas in a labor department capacity, and then 10 years with J.E. Dunn Construction Company, a large national construction firm.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Rhonda Spencer, welcome. First time.
Thank you. I am Rhonda Spencer. I am the Chief People Officer at Barry Waymiller. I have been here for 35 years. Barry Waymiller we've done 150 acquisitions since I've been here. We are in industrial automation, professional services, and life sciences, and I'm here in St. Louis.
Glad you're here. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Susan Kelleher. Hey.
It's been a bit. How are you, Cindy? It's good to be here.
So my name is Susan Kelleher. I retired after a career in human resources where I was the CHRO at a number of large global industrial manufacturing firms. I now sit on the board of a large family-owned infrastructure manufacturing company, as well as on the board of the National Safety Council. I lead the comp committee for both of those. And I do a little bit of consulting and a little bit of work with early startups. So enjoying my time.
Glad you're here. Good to see you. Tim Jurgensen.
Hey everybody, I'm here in a little suburb of Indianapolis, north of Indianapolis, still digging out from 17 inches of snow.
Wow.
It's just pretty wild here, and 5 below tonight it's going to be. So and that's warming up a bit. So career HR, been an officer at an officer level probably for the past 12 years, and the past 2 years. I've been enjoying the opportunity because of groups just like this and Cindy to really almost full-time doing advising. One company is very successful in the retention area and absolutely excited about the opportunities that AI can bring to that. And so Beth, it's good to see you again. I think we've actually even chatted on the phone a couple of times. So I'm looking forward to this presentation.
Thanks, Tim. 17 inches of snow? That's a record.
I'm ready for Florida.
Really. Jamie Elgus, hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, I haven't talked here in about 20 minutes. My voice decided not to work. I am Jamie Elgus. I am Chief People Officer here in Kansas City for Foley Industries. We are part of the Caterpillar Dealership Network. We service the Kansas and Missouri territories. And I'm excited to be here today and learn a little bit more about this organization. So thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Julie Cummings.
Hi, everyone. Apologies, I am not on camera today. It's good to see your faces, though. Similar to Tim, I've been really career HR my entire career, 20 plus, 25 plus years. In the last probably 16, been in the CHRO role, currently with KPMG US, and just looking forward to today learning a little bit more. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Julie. Mike Nichols.
Hi, everybody. Mike Nichols here with launched Vine Creek Consulting 2 years ago after 35 years in the corporate world, across GE, Swiss Re, and CBiz. And now I focus working with organizations on strategic talent topics such as succession planning, leadership pipeline development, and executive coaching being a large extension of that. And I'm in sunny Kansas City. I won't say warm, but the sun is shining.
Yeah, it's pretty cold, isn't it? So Juan Carlo, hey, welcome.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm not, I'm on the road, but role head of HR technology and digital at Nestle. You probably know Nestle with 275,000 employees, 100 billion revenue. My role is really centered on HR transformation, digital, and I work for the CIO, but also have a dotted line to the CHRO. Location is Switzerland. We want snow. We don't have enough, so send some over. I'm a big skier, so looking for more snow here, but probably 35 Fahrenheit. But snow should be coming in the next 2-3 days. So excited about that. And yeah, I'm currently in more like formal customer advisory boards with SAP and some other vendors, and I'm looking a little bit what's next. Okay.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, you'd make a great board member. Okay, so
I'm in Switzerland. I think I'm in Lake Geneva, Switzerland. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so Harry White, welcome.
Hello, hello. I'm Harry White. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I've got some of that snow, 4 inches of ice, and I am an enterprise district manager for them. And so I specialize in partnering with companies and helping them with their AI journey and tying that into their human capital for their long-term growth.
Thanks, Harry. Parker McKenna, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome.
Hi, Cindy. Hi, everybody. I'm Parker McKenna. I am the Chief People Officer at Mosaic. We are a healthcare company. We focus in long-term care and related types of supports. We have a medical device company and a technology company and some other ancillary services as well. And we have offices across the country. Prior to this, I was in a HR leadership role at Union Pacific Railroad and have been in the field for about 25, almost 25 years. So great to be here and good to see everybody.
Good to have you, Parker. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn, and she's going to talk about the agenda and introduce Beth and the advisors that are joining Beth today. And Ken Reeves just texted me and said he can't get in, so I'm going to see if I can get Ken Reeves into the meeting. Marilyn, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, and really appreciate it, Cindy. And it's so good to see so many familiar names and people. Juan Carlo, I met you in Paris and got you here, so it's really good to see you here in the session. And also to those, we've got actually quite a few work streams from the past meetings that we've had. And we have a lot of people that are right now being considered and in process for a variety of advisory boards. And so just for anyone that's new to this session here today, Cindy and I joined forces, well, quite a bit ago. We have to actually figure out our exact date, but we formalized the program in this current form at least a year ago. And we have the same plan for 2026. And the goal is there's two sides here. The goal for you all, for board advisors, is to provide a unique monthly opportunity, be exposed to organizations, to companies and founders for privately held tech companies where you could potentially be considered and then join forces with them. And Beth here today has actually brought, Beth of MeBeBot has actually brought two of her advisors, who hopefully will continue to join us in these programs. And she'll be introducing them, Bobby and John, and so there'll be a specific introduction for them, and then share a little bit about the journey that she's had with her past advisory board. And so, but what we wanted you to do simultaneous to getting exposed to the board positions, but also give you exposure to some of the latest and greatest enterprise level tech that is available in our community. For founders, what founders get out of participating here is direct access to you guys, to build relationships, to get support from, on their founder's journey, and then also to have the potential to be have the right people join them at the right time in their go-to-market. So in 2025, this was our slate of logos that joined us for in Cindy's session here. And again, all of these vendors are either advisory board curious, or they have an advisory board, or they're preparing for that movement. And sometimes it actually takes a while. I mean, sometimes it takes a year of getting organized, getting their heads around things, meeting with people. And I would say that this is like a fast process. And then beginning to figure out how to unlock the potential of actually working with you in addition to all the things that they're doing. So by the end of 2026, we're going to have a whole nother slate of logos. But the amount of tech and innovation that is happening out in the community has been absolutely amazing. So we already did touch upon this point, but in order to get in the room, in order for you to be like Beth at MeBeBot here today, you have to have an advisory board or be thinking about your first take at that, or potentially be looking at refreshing and or replacing and evolving your advisory board. So I'm honored and privileged to be able to have Beth and her team here today. And I've known Beth, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 years. We've met at a number of the conferences, and then we connected, and I've been in a position to be able to provide some help and guidance to MeBeBot over the last few months, which has been an amazing privilege. And I will be joining personally Beth for a webinar on ROI in February. And so we're in the process of planning that. But Beth, maybe what we could do is turn it over to you. And if you could kind of take it away and also do your introduction, and then we do have a spot for Bobby and John. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. And I am very privileged to have known Cindy for many years, Cindy, right? We met years ago, actually through Jerry, who I see is out here. And Jerry introduced us to Cindy and the ESA group. Marilyn and I have known each other, as she mentioned, for a number of years, and we've been able to work more closely together, and that's been a delight. And she's been providing a lot of value to myself and the MeBeBot team. And with me today, I do have John Adcock and Bobby Dangerfield. They're two of MeBeBot's advisors, and I'll share some slides and do an introduction. But I also want to say this is a great group. I have had conversations with a couple people out there like Harsha and Rick and Tim. I've been, in these meetings before over the years. And so it's been a great experience. And so I will share my slides and we'll get started, and I'll give you an overview of MeBeBot and introduce Bobby and John here in a minute. All right, so let me go ahead.
A quick reminder of what we typically do too is, again, we will have quite a bit of time for some Q&A. So definitely want this session to be interactive. If you do put anything in chat, we will take that as we are opening up for Q&A. Megan Tanner, who is here together with me today from WorkTech Advisory, she actually will have a link to a form that we typically will provide for collecting your interest and also any feedback and questions that you have. And so a special thanks to Mr. Rick Meyer for always being consistent and making sure that you do this for every single session that you do. So be like Rick, go ahead and provide the feedback and again, whatever interest or future collaboration might be possible. If you want to share your contact details, that would be a great way to do it. All right, back to you, Beth. Sorry.
All right. Wonderful. Actually, let me do a little brief intro here. So, some of you know me. I'm Beth White. I'm the founder and CEO of MeBeBot. We brought MeBeBot to life in 2018. I'll tell you a little bit more about the story. Frankly, it was in the era of the chatbot phase of companies looking at technology like robotic process automation and chatbots and examining how can we bring these inside our workplaces like we have experiences using these types of technologies as consumers. Because at the time, chatbots were starting to pop up on different websites, etc. Now we've evolved the solution over these years. We are an AI platform, and really we're focused a lot on a variety of different issues that I will tackle, which are some of the problems we solve. But it's all around how do we empower the workforce to get that trusted support to search and be able to power more operationally efficient organizations. And so we're going to, again, go through some of the introductions. Again, very pleased to have John and Bobby with me today. We'll not only describe the problems we solve and how we solve them, but we'll also dive in because Marilyn and I are also curious about your feedback on how we describe return on investment today from MeBeBot, as we will be tackling a roundtable discussion on February 25th. Unfortunately, I don't have the registration form live for that just yet, but we'll make sure this group gets it. And the focus is going to be on the ROI of AI because there's been a lot of discussion and debate about are these solutions really driving improving results? And so that will be the focus of that webinar, but we'll give you a little preview of it because John's going to actually participate with Marilyn and I in that webinar. And we'll introduce him in a second. But what I'm really looking for from this group is, we have had some challenges of late with build versus buy and, pressures with inside companies to what we sell and bring to market, as well as just the growing competitive landscape. So in introducing that topic to you all, this is where there's a huge opportunity where you can share feedback to us as to what you're hearing, seeing, and maybe even some suggestions on how to navigate it. That will be part of the discussion in the questions and answers, and we'll get to all those items in the chat at the end. All right, so I am extremely fortunate. I have a background in, sales, operations, and always working with innovative teams. In fact, I started my early career in HR. So that was my initial background. And I ended up working at a lot of companies that were very forward thinking in Austin, Texas, from fintech to the dot-com era of e-commerce to mobile technologies and now bringing AI to life. And on that journey, no one can do this alone. It is so important to have a great team of advisors and customers and investors that support our efforts. And so I'll turn this over to John to do his introduction. He is calling in from Australia, so it is 6 in the morning. And so that's how much of a trooper he is to MeBeBot. And I'll let him introduce himself and then we'll turn it over to Bobby as well. John, are you still
Great.
out there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Great. Thanks,
Okay.
Beth. Hi, everyone. I'm John Adcock. I've got 25 years in HR. The first half were in bigger companies like American Airlines and Dell, and the second half were with mid-sized companies like HomeAway, Care.com, Eventbrite, and Retail Me Not. And those second half, most of the time was spent as the Chief People Officer. I've been working with Beth since I think it was 2018, and we were the second and probably fifth client for Beth. We're at different places I was at. And I've been an advisor since 2021 with the organization. I personally am now building out a company that does AI advisory work to help people really figure out the human side of implementing AI tools. And I ran away from Texas at 2 days ago when it was 25 degrees, and I landed in Melbourne where it was 114 yesterday. So a little bit of a swing. Luckily, it's not quite that hot today. But thanks, Beth, for having me.
John, thanks for being here. And Bobby?
All right, I'm Bobby Dangerfield, and I spent 40 years in both technology and operations. I spent a bunch of years at IBM. I was at Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, so I heard somebody at the Union Pacific have something in common there. And the last 7 years of my career at Dell, I was at Dell for 20 years and spent a little bit of time in IT and technology, and most of my career in on the business side in technical support, international operations, and the last 7 years running global sales operations. I also spent a couple of years when Michael acquired EMC, leading the technology integration for both companies. So lots of different experiences there. Beth and I met in 2020 during COVID, and it's kind of an interesting time. I had one of my responsibilities at Dell was leading an organization of RPA developers. So we were very focused on robotics process automation. And we tried to build something very similar to what Beth built with MeBeBot, and it wasn't even a minimal success. It was pretty much a failure. It was really, really, really hard. And so when a couple of HR colleagues from Dell introduced me to Beth in 2020, I got very excited, and we talked about all the different possibilities and ways that you could use MeBeBot in the workplace outside of kind of the normal HR information. And Beth asked me to be an advisor for her company, and then 6 months later, I said, "Well, I like this so much, I am willing to kind of put my money where my mouth is." So I became an investor, and have worked with Beth on sales and some of her product requirements and things like that. So.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you, John. I'm so fortunate to have both of them on the team. John, his perspective having been a customer, and Bobby, her leadership and experience having attempted to mimic something like MeBeBot earlier on. So both of them have been very active and involved in MeBeBot, and it's great. So just as we move through the presentation, again, what MeBeBot is we are a solution that is designed to connect to different types of content that's in organizations and bring that content into our platform, but give the companies the agency and autonomy to decide how they want to use that information, whether they want it to be behind guardrails, whether they want to edit that content before it's delivered to employees. It's a very important part of what is happening in the world around AI governance and having some, human in the loop supervision over information. So that's a huge part of our value proposition. But as you can see here, there's other attributes to our value proposition around time reallocation. I mean, we have saved, and John, I'm sure will talk about this, a lot of the manual work that's happening with inside companies that are frankly, routine tasks. And if those individuals would be allowed to devote their time to more strategic work, businesses would be more successful. And we have seen success from our customers and in that era of the time saving, as well as the next item on for big ticket reduction in service tickets. So a lot of the ways that companies handled employee support over the years were either inboxes or ticketing systems. Now with Slack and Teams, there's a lot of noise in the direct messaging going to people, which is distractions, which pulls people away from their focus time. And so if we can reduce the volume of the repetitive questions, we help people be more focused and productive. The other aspect of MeBeBot is that, solutions like MeBeBot have to be compliant. They have to be solutions that are in the flow of work that help employees, get what they need when they need it 24/7 from all the different global locations people are in these days. And of course, helping meet employees where they are with language requirements. That's another aspect we pay a lot of attention to as well with MeBeBot. We have been very fortunate to work with a number of really great companies over the years. What we've really found is that we do best, and our ideal customer persona are companies between 500 and 10,000 employees, which we define as mid-market companies in the sectors that really appreciate our attention to AI, data governance, and privacy and oversight are a lot of companies that are in regulated industries like insurance and banking, real estate tech, gaming. So those tend to be the companies that, again, find the value because they're in heavily compliant organizations themselves. We do support employees in a lot of different countries and languages. We're a proud women certified owned business as well as a Microsoft partner. And we've been dedicated as a brilliant bot in the Slack app marketplace. We have our customers when they, desire complete G2 surveys of MeBeBot, and we've been a market leader in AI agents and chatbots for a number of years, as well as employee support services with 5-star reviews. So the problems that we solve and that we want to focus on today are what we do to help clear up the mess of what we call the content chaos that's going on inside organizations. We reach out to companies with problems like, well, we have documents in the Google Drive, but we have some documents in Confluence, or we have things in the OneDrive and this other system that IT uses. So content's scattered, so it makes it very difficult for employees to, again, find what they're looking for when they need it. And it does create inefficiencies that cost businesses money. As far as manual responses are concerned, they're often at times inconsistent. They require employees to go through a process to submit a ticket, for example, and then they have to wait to get a response from someone. And maybe their need is very urgent, or they're on a different time zone. And the other issue that we really see coming up today is that there are a lot of different types of solutions in market, but very few are really ready to provide a solution to an enterprise organization that's compliant, that they have explainable AI, meaning they can share what's inside and happening in the black box. And we actually silo customer data separately, and each customer has their own data model. So we get into that level of specifics to really work within organizations that want the speed and efficiency of launching a solution quickly within days and weeks by non-technical business user, but have the assurance that the solution is secure. The bot itself implements inside Microsoft Teams, Azure, we're part of the Azure Marketplace as well, or Slack. And then we have a web chat that can be embedded inside intranet pages or as its own standalone page. And for those of you who work in the frontline worker industry, I know I've talked to Harsha about this because I came out of retail tech. We have a text message interface too for frontline workers. So this is an example of the return on investment. And, John and I talked about this briefly, but, John, feel free to chime in as I kind of walk through an example of how we, return investment or the time investment back to the companies we work with. So we have an example customer that has 1,000 employees. And in that company, when I ask people, well, how many hours a day do you believe that your employees are, answering questions to employees where it's taking them away from their productivity time? We find that in an organization of 1,000 people, there's probably 20 people across finance, IT operations, facilities, benefits, payroll, you name it, that are essentially being asked to answer questions repetitively. And then if we take a look at an average hour price per hour of their salary and how many hours they spend per day, we can calculate to what this is as a business cost to their overall organization. And that doesn't even include the time that the employee spends in looking for the information before they get, a resolution by finding a document or having to send a ticket or a message to someone in particular within the organization. When you look at the cost of what that costs an organization to what MeBeBot's annual subscription is, we charge on average $3 per person per month. And of course, larger organizations pay less. We have multi-year discounts, but the return on investment pays for itself in literally anywhere between 3 months to 6 months, depending on the organization. John, do you have anything to add since you were our customer twice? And I know we've gone through this, example of benchmarking your flow of questions into various inboxes and the differential once MeBeBot helps out by automating those answers.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come out of it that are beyond the just dollar and cents ROI, which I think everybody wants to see. But I think the fact that this is 24/7, the questions you get come from around the globe, and you may not always have around the globe support for that. You may have a generalist in some place, but you may not always have the person that can answer those questions. A lot of them are routine. And the better play is to have it be not just an HR tool. It's your IT, it's your facilities, as many places where people can use this to basically, in some cases, just make your internet searchable. All those things that you've put all those years into making on the internet that I think in most experiences I've had are not easy to find is great. I think the other big piece is when you get your staff actually using it, because there is a little bit of a transition because people always are like, oh, I'll just bug this person for a while. So getting them into using it, it helps people with their flow, right? We all know those questions, those drive-bys, and what that does to you and your team when somebody walks by and starts saying, hey, can you get this one thing for me? Or I've got this email. My favorite example at Retail Me Not, where we implemented it first, is we had a got it email. People just sent it to everybody in HR. One person would say, got it, take everybody off, go and research it and send it. 80% of those questions were the same questions that just the repository fixed. So I think there's actual ROI of time, and then there's the ROI of switching and the customer satisfaction you get from your employees. Then they can get that information 24/7.
Yes, I was just recalling, John, how Retail Me Not called their AI chatbot Peep because it fit into their brand with this cute little owl image. So it became a whole branding campaign to get it out there and have employees use it as an app within Slack. So thanks, John. But you're right, John. John introduced some other ideas of where ROI, is more intangible, but yet very present. It's what does HR do with the time or other business members from IT and facilities, payroll, you name it, when they have that extra time. Believe it or not, I was a little shocked when, having been an HR professional, people would say to me, well, what else would I be doing if I'm not answering employee questions? And, it took me aback. But I think I realized that in this world of AI, people do need to be guided. They need to be guided down paths to what else their responsibilities become when they are freed up from doing more manual and administrative work. And it's all about those business partnerships that we always want to align with, aligning to understanding the data that you're seeing and the KPI and metrics, as well as ensuring that those projects you work on actually are completed on time, in schedule. And let's not forget the change management. I know this is an area that John's focusing a lot on is, how do we bring human-centered design into change management that will be necessary in this world of getting an understanding from people that their work is going to be changing in the era of AI and that job descriptions will be different. Organizational structures are going to evolve. And starting those conversations now and really getting that in place, you only are going to be able to free up your time to do this if you have solutions like MeBeBot that start taking some of that routine work off of people's plates. As far as what our challenges that we're encountering, when we launched MeBeBot back in 2018, we built our solution based on natural language processing and machine learning. It was more of the traditional chatbot type of technology. Of course, today we interface with large language models, generative AI. We use, retrieval augmented generation, RAG principles, and a number of different other methodologies to do what we do. And we've always come to market with our own platform. But when we look at what's happening out there inside companies, you have executives, CEOs that may get directives from their board saying, hey, we need you to do more AI. What does that mean within companies, right? Do AI. Well, for a lot of companies, it's very easy, especially if you're a Microsoft customer, to do AI by simply turning on Microsoft Copilot. It was offered for a lot of larger organizations for free the very first year it launched back in, I want to say, around 2023. And that was part of an E5 subscription level with Microsoft. You had a Copilot with inside your Teams instance, and it was able to answer questions for employees. But what Copilot does is it pulls information back from whatever source of information it can grab, meaning anything and everything in a OneDrive or SharePoint. And so often it's surfacing documents that perhaps people forgot were still out there, right? And that information's out there like a remote work policy. So this is an example of tell me about a remote work policy of literally my live Copilot instance. And this was a $30 per person per month paid version, not the lower level options that are available now. And it just in our company alone, it produced several different remote work policies because we've all had more than one over the years, right? And it leaves the onus to the employee to determine if the answer that Copilot is summarizing is actually accurate. And it turns out it does leave citations of documents, but you have to actually go into the document, figure out what the document's date is to understand, is this even a document that you can trust? And this is me as an employee judging that. But why? Why are we leaving it to the employee to judge this information? Why are we not giving them the information that they need? Some of you may know that the Department of Labor, is the overseeing organization of the EEOC, and we've actually had our solution vetted with the EEOC, and they have said that during their evaluation, they really appreciated our solution because they have a backlog of over 500 EEOC claims based on AI producing inaccurate information, whether it be the biases and other situations that are happening within recruiting technology, but even in solutions like what we're showing here with Copilot. So it's really up to the organization to make sure that they're delivering, accuracy to information for information to employees, and accuracy drives trust. What drives adoption? But trust. People have to be able to see that the solution's working for them. It actually makes them more productive. And so in the example you see here, this is MeBeBot installed as an app inside Teams. And so what MeBeBot does is it goes back to our main AI platform. It pulls the information that the business has determined is the right information that they want to have the employee query against. And they can even set the answers to be specific to what they want, even with an attorney, perhaps reviewing information within MeBeBot. There's also an audit trail. If an employee says an answer is not helpful, it actually goes back to the MeBeBot system administrators, within inside our customer base, and they can see answers employees indicated as not helpful. If you do the same thing in Microsoft Copilot, guess what? You don't get to see that result. It goes back to Microsoft, right? So there's no way to flag content that may be out there that's inaccurate. And that's why a lot of organizations right now are struggling in their AI journey because they have bad data. Bad data includes unstructured content. And so it's a matter of, do you clean up the data, or do you have a system that essentially curates the information and helps give you the agency and autonomy over it? So that's our big differentiator, but it's also hard in the build versus buy conversations as, competition's out there. I mean, MeBeBot considers ourselves a very innovative, visionary solution. We're in a G2 grids along with some of the companies you see here. Glean is a competitive type solution that really started in the IT space. Many of you know of ServiceNow and Workday. ServiceNow recently just acquired MoveWorks for $2 billion, right? And so there's companies out there that have been doing what we're doing for a while, and it's a matter of differentiation that we work toward. And a lot of it comes with how easy it is to launch MeBeBot, how easy it is to configure the solution. Many of our competitors require several people on staff that's their role, is to be the Lena AI administrator or the Glean administrator. And with MeBeBot, it doesn't require that type of, high level, high touch oversight because MeBeBot does a lot of the AI training in the background. And we have a simple solution that's easy to launch, but very powerful and complex behind the scenes. That's where I have I guess did I do all right, Marilyn, on time?
Yeah, I think you're right on
All
time. And
right.
thank you to
Okay,
everybody who
so
has been queuing up some kind of, there's go-to-market business questions, which sometimes we have a bit of discussion on. But one of the topics that we wanted to talk about was this build versus buy. And the observation here is we've got companies doing build decisions for a use case that probably shouldn't be used. And so, but that is creating some headwinds for Beth on MeBeBot. And so we're working on ways in which to educate and mitigate that from her sales motions. We also, in today's chat, we have a bunch of very, very specific questions. So Beth, maybe take a scan through now that you've paused, and we'll see what we can answer here as well. And then while we're in this discussion as well, would really, really appreciate if you could, in the very first post, or Megan, if you wouldn't mind putting the link out again, provide any feedback for Beth, indicate interest. And again, there's always an opportunity for follow-on. So go ahead, Beth, and we can we can start reading
Yes, we
through.
can start going through. So I know Harsha, I see your question first. We've had conversations in the past. I think you mentioned starting with a question bank. So that is how MeBeBot began. Is we essentially formulated over 300 questions and answers, which were the most commonly asked types of questions across HR, benefits, policies, payroll, IT facilities, and created that into what we call MeBeBot One, our AI web-based platform. And so when we ingest documents and sync with them from their original source, it does take, again, the agency of the company to determine, is this type of content like an employee handbook prescriptive? And if so, the prescriptive content can get matched to a lot of the questions answered. So it can answer those how to on personal data type of questions and answers around PTO balance and schedule work. That does require an extra step to be integrated to the systems of record to know who an employee is and be able to identify them. But we can absolutely do that with companies' permission. So it's one of these things that we start launching the solution where employees are more anonymous but authenticated based on their email or an approved phone number, and that's how they get access to the system. And I think, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that did, Beth, thank you. And I think that just kind of coming back to the build versus buy, this is really one of the key sticking points today. And in fact, in the next 10 minutes, I'm getting into a conversation on this topic internally. Because, when we think about experiences, certainly on the front lines, the current challenge that we have for the most part is information or data sets are siloed within many different systems. And so when somebody wants to get to a policy, you go to SharePoint, you want to look at new products that were released, we have another bulletin for that. If you want to look at your schedule, you go to Dayforce. You want to look at your PTO balance, you go to another system. So when we introduce something like this, and it only solves for one component of that frontline associate's daily life, it starts to, become one more tool in my toolbox as opposed to, okay, I got one place that I can get all my answers for. So the natural language conversational aspect is amazing. I think that's the way the world is moving towards, but it's really how do we address all of the needs? This kind of comes back to the build versus buy, because tools like yours definitely solve a niche problem. But then when I'm thinking from a technology strategy, I have to say, well, how do I build the underpinnings to deliver that single pane of glass experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can have a conversation offline on that, but with the world of, MCP and agent to agent communication,
Yeah.
is definitely allowing that vision to come to light. And another thing that is just something to keep an eye on is having a solution that can grow and evolve into that, like MeBeBot, is a way to get started down that path while everyone ideally uses more caution and oversight to agents, right? There is a lot of, frankly, risks in using agents. And so getting a framework like MeBeBot in place, leveraging it to get started on phase one and then evolve it to the personalization of payroll information, personalization of employee expense information, and growing it out and rolling it out in a phased approach drives more success, frankly, in what we've seen with our customers. So I think some of the failures of AI projects these days is attempting to do too much all at once and failing. So I see Giancarlo, you kind of are asking similar types of questions about, like, then how do you contextualize the answer based on, Joe's a director person, in Spain. The way we handle global employees today is we can either read the where the employee lives through Intra, Active Directory, Okta, or other systems, or they can simply self-select. I am an employee in Spain. And when they get their answers, it can be about a specific policy for only Spain because they've identified as being in Spain. Getting to the detail of a director level, 10 years of experience, that would require the integration to a key system of record, whether it be like Harsha talked about Dayforce or Workday, and with some of the structures that are being put in place between SAP and Workday with their own agents, MeBeBot agent could talk to a Workday agent and help facilitate that process a lot faster in the future than I call it the old school APIs. So, so I think the possibilities are coming to light in a much more secure and less time intensive manner. Old, integrations of the past will be a lot different in the future. Was that helpful? So I can move to the next one. So Susan asked, how does MeBeBot assess accuracy and version control when it finds multiple documents regarding the same topic? And that's a great question, because as we are syncing with companies' information in their systems, the very first step of the process is after the sync, the company will see the list of all the different types of documents that MeBeBot has ingested, and they can choose the ones that they want us to continuously sync with. So that if we ingest a remote work policy from 2023, the company can just say ignore, and that document's not included. If it's the 2026 policy, it can be included, and then at that point they choose whether it is delivered as prescriptive, which means it has a set answer that requires human supervision, or it can be a document that employees can query against without having, again, set information, and it delivers answers. The oversight comes in as well when an employee indicates an answer is not helpful. They can actually come into the product and see all the different indicators of when an employee says something is not helpful and determine, is it something in the original source document that needs to be updated? At times, MeBeBot does need to apply more AI training to the type of questions someone asked. So it's a continuous process there. So the weeding out of the documents happens in the initial sync, and then if a document's updated again, like in SharePoint or OneDrive, we're pinging back to the SharePoint OneDrive on a once a day, once an hour, whatever the company indicates, and we're constantly keeping in sync with information. I hope that answered that. I think Giancarlo asked another question about elaborating on partnership with Microsoft. So we're a Microsoft ISV partner, and the interesting question is, can you connect to Copilot Studio? And the answer is yes. If a company has a Copilot and they want that to be the main interface, MeBeBot can be, if questions are asked about this topic, revert to MeBeBot. So there's opportunities to do a lot more with the Copilot infrastructure. We keep close to the Microsoft product roadmap as much as anyone can these days, right? And so that is a way that we see our solution being utilized as well. And then there's some questions from, I think it's Rhonda, about how does the functionality compete with existing systems like Workday? It's interesting because Workday launched their assistant years ago, and frankly, at the time, it answered about 20 questions that were all tied to fields of data within Workday. I mean, we have Workday customers that are MeBeBot customers because Workday is its own system, but not all content or information lives within Workday. So if you want employees to have more of a holistic understanding of what information's out there, having something that's agnostic and can look across the organization is really our big differentiator against Workday Assistant or SAP Joule, right? And we've had partnership type conversations with Workday, SAP, and a lot of the bigger companies. I see Should I keep going down the list, Marilyn and Cindy? Okay. Rick asked a question about how we curate data for accurate answers to questions. So we made a lot of assumptions over the years of having worked with a number of different companies that we'll start with a basis of the questions that are most commonly asked. And then as we grew in our customer base, we'd have customers request new set questions and answers that are part of our internal knowledge base. And so we constantly have added information really based more on what employees were asking. So it's an on-demand type of way that we began to curate and grow that knowledge base. But as generative AI, RAG, and other processes have improved, we are doing more to simply deliver answers to employee questions without, again, the human oversight and having answers be part of a prescriptive process. Prescriptive is a lot for companies that really have requirements that how we describe our leave of absence policies, we want to make sure is completely specific as the attorneys attended, and we don't want any room for deviation. And that can be a good subset of content. However, there's a plethora of other content like how to have, what are some icebreakers for team meetings, or, give me some ideas of, ways I can better, inspire, employee productivity in a certain area. So those are types of things that can be more non-prescriptive or just delivered as is. So,
Beth, are you using AI to gather information in focus groups to get at those questions?
I mean, as far as our external customers are concerned, our customers are concerned, or focus groups of the general population of people?
No, I'm thinking about employee focus groups where you're asking for top of mind questions amongst the employees and then using AI to integrate that data more quickly than I used to.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Rick. And really, the whole solution is that query. So anytime anyone asks a question, it's essentially pushing the envelope to what they want to learn about. If MeBeBot doesn't have an answer for it, well, guess what? It comes into our system as something that's flagged of, is this something that more people than one will ask? Do we have knowledge articles against it? So the whole fact that employees are using it becomes that surveying process. We do also have an AI pulse survey. We call it AI sentiment, where MeBeBot can actively ask questions of people by different population segments. And we have AI communications as well, where we can actively push out communications to employees. And part of the MeBeBot one is aggregating all that data in one place for the business to use. But I like that. I like your same thought process. The whole solution was essentially crowdsourced built, right, by the customers and the types of questions their employees are asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, good one.
Well, thank you. We're approaching top of the hour. There might be a few questions that weren't specifically answered. We could do that one of two ways. We could have Beth follow up with you individually, or we could do an FAQ document too, Beth, just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we're at time.
Yeah, as usual, what happens is Cindy will have this recording available for you, as well as the feedback form. There'll be a link if you didn't get a chance to do that here and now, that you wanted to think about a few more things. You have the chance to do that when she sends out the recap email. Definitely encourage you to reach out directly to Beth, either LinkedIn, email, or via the form, whatever you prefer. And I hope you found today's session insightful.